Okay, guys, welcome to the YouTube. So we are back finally with some sick edits from Aaron as well. So we're actually in for a bit of a client training day today. So what we're going to do is go through some upper body work with Shabelle, Meg, Fran, who I've got over here with me, and then we're going to put them through a leg session, which is going to be absolutely savage. That's probably going to be my favorite part. I'm sure they cannot wait as well. So without further ado, we're going to crack on, have a look through some lat work, some upper back work, and some delt work, and then we get stuck into legs. Let's do it. Nervousness. Why is it so awkward? Oh my God. So when we're thinking about upper back work, we're thinking about elbows coming a little bit more away from the body. With lat work, we're thinking about actually elbow coming to the rib cage and really thinking about down into the hip. So obviously I'm going to get Shabelle to demonstrate in a second, but I'm going to run it through first. So obviously you get an idea of like what we're actually going to aim for here. So
yeah. I'm like, I'm the tech kid.
Exactly. So I'm going to show you like an upper back variation first, what we're kind of looking for, the differences between both. So essentially if we're thinking upper back, we basically want to set up so we're nice and tall, our spine wants to be neutral. So another thing that I also see with upper back is like someone to be sat, it's for both lat and upper back, and they sit their glutes like out underneath them like this. So exactly, which looks great, but at the same time it's not necessarily what we want. So we want nice neutral spine, chest tall. You can go either a neutral grip or an overhand grip. And then we're really going to sit up tall, keep our body still. You're going to allow your upper back to stretch forward and then drive the elbows back behind you. So we're not going to use any momentum, but I want to see full protraction and retraction in your scapula, so in your shoulder blade. So for the upper back, you want to let your upper back move. With the lat work, we don't want to see the shoulder and the upper back move too much. You want to keep it locked down and down towards the hip. So if we're thinking about lat work, you're going to set it up. Ideally, I find it's always better to do single arm. So either take a neutral grip or slightly underhand. This is where we're going to set your body into position as well. Neutral spine, hips tucked underneath you. So keep your chest up. You don't want to be like this, because that's another thing that I see as well. Like people get into an upper back, a lat movement, and they're like, and I'm just there like, you don't want to do that either. Like, so hips tucked, chest tall, slightly underhand grip. I also want you to position your body so that you're slightly rotated in with the non-working shoulder. So I like, say for example, I'm in a movement like this, I'll always put my hand like on the inside of on the side of the leg that I'm kind of not working, rotate the shoulder in, and then I'm going to drive my elbow into my rib cage. So I don't need to travel back behind the rib cage, because what happens then is your shoulder rotates forward and you just get a lot of bicep and shoulder in it. So chest up to the rib cage, thinking about scraping the bottom of your hand and your elbow across the floor as you drag it towards you, because also what tends to happen is someone can bring the weight towards them and their hand starts to come up like this. And again, that's just bicep. So you want to make sure you're dragging that hand across the floor. So again, down towards the hip. And as you go to straighten the arm out, you're going to keep that shoulder locked down towards the hip. You're not going to let it really stretch forward. And I think, Shabelle, like this is what I see you do in your videos. So you want to keep it a little bit more like pressed down towards the hip. Allow the arm to straighten fully for that full range of motion. You can have a little bit of a pull forward with the shoulder, but you don't want it to see it travel all the way like this. So keep it locked in, down towards the hip. Ready to be a guinea pig? Huh? Ready to be the guinea pig? Yeah. We're going to do the lat work first, because I think upper back work you're fairly savvy with, but I want to cover this and then we'll differentiate between the two. So let's do the left side, thing as I was on the left.
This is my good side anyway, Sam.
Oh,
don't you worry.
Happy days. Right.
I'm just joking, I don't have
Would you mind taking your hoodie off? He's like, I thought you'd never ask.
Take my clothes off.
Oh, here we go.
I also wore matching text. I was like, chill up.
Why not? Right. Yeah, exactly. Let's do it. Right.
My nails also match.
Let's go. Yeah. Okay. So let's think about before we even pull. Straighten your arm out again. We're just going to get your body positioned into place. Right. So think about rotating. Yes, inwards. Sit over to the left side of you a little bit. So sit over to the working side. Nice neutral spine, tuck your hips underneath you a little bit. Not necessarily forward, like under.
So you didn't move.
So we don't even move the body, it's literally just like tuck your hips under. Yeah, so it's almost like, imagine like you can tilt your pelvis this way or this way. You're gonna tilt under, like you're tucking your tailbone underneath you a little bit. Okay, right, so now what we're gonna think about doing is you're going to lock your shoulder down towards your hip. Yes, I want you to create tension here. Drive your elbow across the floor and down towards your hip. Yes, good. And I want you to keep that tension there. So straighten the arm fully out. Think about keeping a slight rotation in with your elbow. Yes, good. There you go, that's better. Thumb, yeah. All the way forward, 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 forward. Don't let this go. Good, good. Remember, arm fully straight, full range of motion. Good. There you go. Keep that tension there. Elbow in. Yes. Good. Try not to let it get away from you because then your upper back's like, I want to work. Think about pulling your shoulder back a little bit with it as well. Good. Well done. Straighten your arm fully out without letting the shoulder roll forward. There you go. That's it. Okay, keep that. That's what you want to keep.
Like do exactly.
Come this side. Come this side. Good. You've got like 2 reps and then you can have a little breather. There you go. Lovely. What we want to get to do is like straighten her arm out, but without seeing her shoulder. Yeah, there you go. Because every time I cue her to do it, she does it. But it's just because like you forget.
I just
like,
each other the entire time. Like shoulder,
just
shoulder.
Slap on the wrist. Okay. Just one more. That's much better.
I'm gonna sort of
Yeah,
nice
it's fine.
on this side and the other
Yeah,
side.
we. Good. do you feel the difference though? Think about allowing the upper back to stretch forward. Keep your torso up nice and tall. There you go. See, upper back, no problem. No problem. It's just the lat work. Good. Lovely. There you go. So obviously you want to see that upper back. Keep going. You want to see her upper back like really kind of almost pull forward and then squeeze together, almost like 2 double doors, opening and closing. So trying to get the scapula to kind of like slide over her upper back. Good. Right, on the right side, Chevelle, just drop both. You're going to go into your lat work on the right side.
Just like I was even it out this morning.
Exactly. Would hate to make too many gains on the left. Straighten that arm out. Keep that shoulder back. Try not to let that pull forward. Slightly internally rotate your elbow in. Yes, there you go. Because that allows you to keep your arm really tight to your ribcage. Okay, so main teaching points then for the lat work is keeping the elbow nice and close to the ribcage. So drive it down towards your hip, neutral grip or slightly underhand. Keep that arm path nice and close to your body. Imagine like you're going to really crunch down on the side you're working. You're going to allow your shoulder to really be crunched down towards your hip and you're going to lock that into place. As you go to straighten your arm out, you're going to straighten your arm out for that full range of motion without seeing it, like seeing your shoulder pull forward with it. So you want to very much keep your shoulder locked down towards your hip as your arm goes straight. Then think about driving that elbow down towards your hip, close to the rib cage, scraping the bottom of your hand across the floor as you pull it back towards you. Upper back work, you're going to allow the arm path to travel slightly away from the rib cage. Think about really stretching forward your upper back and your scapula, and then driving your elbows back behind you, squeezing your scapula together. Imagine like you're going to pinch a pencil between your shoulder blades. So for that full range of motion. So with upper back work, we allow that stretch forward, elbows away from you and behind the rib cage. Lat work, drive the elbow close to the rib cage whilst keeping crunch down that side that we're working. Most important cue for cable lateral raise is to think about, for any delt work actually, is to think about dragging your hand away from you. So try not just to think up and down, think about how far can I reach my hand away. So let's say, you don't want to just think about, like I said, up and down with your elbow. I want you to think about punching your hand down to the floor, so straighten your arm out, punch down towards the floor, and then see how far you can reach your hand away from you at the side. So rather than just thinking kind of like up and down, away. okay? Because that's gonna help you get less trap into this and engage more delt. So think down towards the floor. We're not gonna let the cuff cross in front of our body, straight down to the side, drag up and away. And again, we want the arm path to be slightly ahead of the shoulder. So we don't want to pin it back in line with the shoulder. It should be sat about 15 degrees or so, like ahead. So that is the same with the pressing, which obviously we'll get to in a bit. Meg, you can do the pressing, okay? So up and away. Nice control back down. Ready? Right, up and away. Better, definitely better than the last time I saw it. Good.
I should try. It looks like it's not like I haven't tried.
Good. Good. That's lovely. Yeah, lovely. Much, much better. Lovely arm path. See, obviously, if I was to draw a line like directly down your shoulders like this, your arm path wants to be slightly ahead. There you go. Beautiful.
Very nice and light.
Good. Yeah, lovely. Perfect. Nailed it. We're done. Right, so for cable lateral, well, for any lateral raise variation, the best way you're going to get the most out of your delts is to think about two things. So firstly, is to think about dragging your hand out and away from you. So don't just think up and down with your arm. Think punching that hand down and dragging out and away. It's the same for cables, it's the same for dumbbells. That is the best cue that you could have for any delt isolation. Secondary to that, you want to think about allowing your arm to travel slightly ahead of your shoulder. So if it's to draw a line directly across your shoulders like that, your arm path is going to travel just 15 degrees or so ahead of that line. So slightly ahead of the shoulder. Watch it doesn't get pinned back in line with the shoulder, slightly ahead. We're going to cover one pressing variation because the principles are fairly similar for each of your pressing that I kind of want to go through. So we're going to do a high incline press because all of us are probably going to focus a little bit more on the delts versus like doing a lot of chest. Generally, us women, we prefer to have like slightly nicer delts and a focus on the delts rather than doing too much chest. Obviously, a little bit of chest is going to be, like, you know, in your programming here and there just for overall balance, but it's the delts that we really kind of want to show. So you want to think about keeping your spine neutral, but I want you to think about almost digging your scapula and your shoulder blades into the back of the pad behind you. Keep your chest nice and tall, and you're going to bring the dumbbells up and allow them to sit slightly ahead of the shoulder. So similar to the pressing work that we've just done there similar to the lateral raise work that we've just done there, always think about keeping those elbows slightly tucked forward and think about pressing them up overhead and then coming back down, watching that the elbows don't go back in line with the shoulder again. So you see how I'm not kind of pinning them back all the way here? Because that's kind of a little bit more of a vulnerable position for your shoulders. So tuck them forward, that's gonna be a lot more comfortable. Get your chest up, driving your scapula into the back of the pad. Watch that as you press upwards as well. Something that I really often see is like, as someone goes to press their arms out straight, their chest kind of caves in. So I want you to really think about keeping those scapula dug into the back of the pad, chest up nice and tall, as you drive your arms out straight overhead of you. Think about pressing straight up overhead rather than almost pressing forward. Yeah. You want to think about pressing, yes, there you go. Because you want to make sure as well that your elbow and your hand is stacked kind of like one on top of the other. So let's say, just pause there. Yeah. The hand and the dumbbell stays stacked over the elbow the whole time. Because what was happening there was like the dumbbell was kind of starting to roll forward and you're pressing up like forward in front of you. Yeah. So you want to think about pushing those elbows, tucking those elbows forward slightly. Yeah. And then pressing directly up overhead. Good. Head back against the pad. Yeah, there you go. Relax. There you go. Lovely. Much better. Did you see that? Yeah. So she was starting to press slightly forward. So she needed to think about tucking her elbow forward a little bit more to make sure that her hand and the dumbbell was stacked directly over her elbow. That's beautiful. What she did, start to press forward, chest up. Yeah, there you go. Good. For any kind of pressing movement, the main points, really make sure that your chest stays up nice and tall the entire time. Dig your scapula or your shoulder blades into the back of the pad behind you. As you go to straighten your arms up overhead, what you do is start to cave in your chest. Keep your chest up and nice and open. So you want to make sure that your elbows are slightly tucked forward ahead of the shoulders, so they're not pinned back in line with the shoulders. Similar to any lateral raise variation that we did, we also want to make sure the elbows are slightly tucked forward. So making sure that the hand of the dumbbell is stacked over your elbow the entire time. Reverse pec deck then. So I do often see this one done like a little bit, well, not wrong necessarily, because you would think that obviously the way that the machine is built, you're going to take a positioning where you're like probably like bolt upright like this. But I think the better positioning for rear delts is actually to have a slightly forwards lean into the chest pad. So what we want to think about doing is, again, we're going to revisit the same cues as what we did for the lateral raises, and that's to reach your hand away from you the whole time. So the main thing is always with the delt isolation is to reach your hand forward and away. So here's the position I'm going to take. I'm not even going to use the seat really. So I'm going to lean forward into the pad. I'm going to make sure that my spine is neutral. So again, I don't have my glutes kind of like arched up behind me like this. I'm going to make sure my hips are tucked. Chest into the pad. I'm going to reach my hands forward, and then I'm going to drag out and away. I'm not just going to think about pulling my elbows back. I'm just going to try and think about how far to the outsides of me can I reach my hands. Reach back forward again. As I bring my hands towards the front, my upper back and my shoulders are going to stretch forward with my hands. So I'm really trying to reach them towards the front of the machine. Because the thing is, what I found is, like, say for example, if you were to go like this, what tends to happen is like you lose your core, so you just end up kind of flopping like that. So yeah, so split stance, one foot in front of the other. So have this foot, yeah, or either way. Lean forward into the pad. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So it's not even inherently trying to think about how far back can I get my elbows. It's about thinking how far away can I reach my hands. Yeah, there you go. Core a little bit tighter. So what should we do? Start to lose the glutes out behind you a little bit too much. Yeah, there you go. That is lovely. Right, good job, good job. Okay, we're gonna get going pretty quick. Like, there's no need to be spending like forever and a day to warm up, because at the end of the day, that's just gonna end up eating into your session. So it's just not necessary. You're gonna warm up by doing the exercises you're actually set on your plan. So you don't need to be spending an extra like half an hour on top of that doing like mobility work and like walking on the treadmill if you don't need to. Be efficient with it.
Walking on the treadmill.
Who would do that? So what we're gonna do, we'll start off with some adductors. We'll feed in one after the other, and then what I'll have you do is do some walking lunges literally up there and then back again. That's all we're gonna do to warm up, really. Okay, so just warm up sets of your adductor and then up and down. So who's gonna go first? So we're gonna sit forward.
Yeah.
So when we are doing the abductor, we want to make sure that we're actually taking a slightly forward lean from the hip. Yeah? Yeah, exactly. That's it. Right, let's do it. That should feel really easy. Have your feet up on the rungs one higher. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
The legs are too little.
Yeah, they're a little bit. It's fine. We'll make it work. Good. See, we're sat slightly forward, so we're not going to be sat back into the seat for the abductor work. We just get a little bit more stretch out the glutes there as we bring the knees into the center. So remember, as we're warming up, we're going to start off with slightly higher rep range. As the weights get a little bit heavier throughout our feeder sets and warm-up sets, we're going to start to taper the reps down. So we're working away, a good bit away from failure. So we're not wasting any energy doing our warm-up sets. That's fine. I'm going to send you off for some lunges. Chevelle, try not to just bend your back just to go forward. Yeah. Head between the legs. Right. So just from the hip, slightly more lean forward. A bit more. Yeah, hips back, lean forward. Yeah, that's better. You want to get a good connection here.
Your head in.
It needs a bit of WD-40.
Literally,
yeah. Good. Pausing inside and outside just to make sure we're removing any momentum. The really good part of having this in first exercise is just to get that connection with your glutes and that sensation there. It's not about chasing the weight with this one. It's literally just trying to find that connection, get them activated, and we can crack on with the session. Yeah. You want to make sure, have your toes slightly pointed out, pause at both end ranges, commit to both end ranges, and again, make sure that you don't like rest the weight at any point. Keep constant tension. When you get to those last couple of reps, really try and make sure that you're not starting to like hunch over yourself, because it's going to be really tempting for you to do that in the adductor, because what will happen is you'll start to use your core to pull the knees in, and not the adductors themselves. Well, they will work, but obviously you're going to be taking the priority away from them a little bit more. So make sure you keep yourself nice and tall in the seat, sit back into the pad, okay? So, good. So in the middle, remember, we want the two thighs to get as close together as possible, but without touching. Yeah. Easy. Do a few more, because obviously your adductors, I feel like they need time to get warm, yeah. Otherwise you feel like one's just gonna go like pinging off, yeah. In. Drive, drive, drive. Yes, good. One more. All the way through. Yes, that's the one. Good, well done. Drive. All the way through. And again, one more with me. Chest up. Yes. All the way through. Come on, let's go. In. Yes. One more with me. So for the adductor, what we're going to do is sit back into the seat. We're going to keep that sat back position. We don't want to hunch over as it starts to become a little bit more challenging. Whereas with the abductor, the only difference is obviously the positioning in your upper body, which will slightly lean forward. Adductor, you're going to lean back. Abductor, you're going to lean a little bit forward. Pause the both end ranges. Keep constant tension. Job done. We're going to work a little bit more quad. So basically, when we're looking to try and work more quad with the leg press, we're going to have a slightly lower position on the platform, on the plates. So we want to make sure that our feet are as low as we possibly can get them without our heels starting to almost like lift off a little bit. So it's a little bit of try and error, but just as low as you can. Try and get as much as your ankles will allow. So we want to try and get as much knee bend. You want to try and get as much knee bend as you can, basically, okay? Good, so make sure you can keep that full foot on the platform, so even weight distribution across your whole foot. So it's really important when you do any pressing or squat movements that you are able to think of your foot as a tripod, so you're not shifting your weight onto like one side of your foot or the other. Should be nice and even. More. Yes, there you go. That's more like it. That's the sort of knee flexion that we need. Yes, there you go, okay.
Fold like a pretzel.
Yeah. I'm gonna fold like a deck chair.
Yeah.
Right. Good. That'll do. Right, let's go up. Okay, so a few quick points for a quad-focused leg press. Essentially try and get your feet as low on the platform as you can, whilst being able to keep a nice even weight distribution across your whole foot. You're looking for as much knee bend, knee flexion as you can get, so you get as much quad out of it as possible. Now, the whole time you're in the leg press, you want to be able to hold yourself and pull yourself down into the seat. Try and create as much stability as possible. Keep your reps continuous, so you're not resting too long at the top and you're actually keeping tension on the muscle. Couple of quick points for the leg extension, or actually any machine where you're doing like aligned hamstring curl, leg extensions. You always want to make sure that your legs are like train tracks in the machine. So you want to make sure that your knees and your feet are all in line with your hips. So make sure that everything is in one line and it's not like your knees are all the way out here or they're just out of line, train tracks. When you're setting these up with the seat, you're going to make sure that your knees are in line with the pivot, and that's for any machine. It could be upper body, it could be lower body. Always joint in alignment with the pivot. So the way you'll set the machine up is always so the knees are literally in line with that dot there. So again, pull yourself down. You can sit back into the seat, toes pointed up, as much range of motion as you can possibly get. So bring your feet as far in as you can without, again, taking the tension off of the muscle. Keep tension on, and then think about dragging up. So again, you want to think of it as a drag, don't kick. No momentum. Okay, so main tips for the leg extension. Make sure that when you're setting up the machine that your knees are in alignment with the pivot of the machine the entire time. Then you're going to make sure that your foot distance, like how far your feet are apart, is in line with your knees, which is in line with your hips. From your hips to your knees to your feet, it wants to be like train tracks, so all in one line. Make sure you're going for a full range of motion, so get as much range of motion as you can in the stretch before taking the tension off the muscle, and then think about dragging that weight back up, not a kick, a drag, pause at the top, control back down, keeping yourself sat back into the seat the entire time. We'll kind of just go into a couple of warm-up sets, a couple of feeder sets, just to go through the movement pattern, get the hamstrings nice and warm and firing, and then we'll start adding some weight to the bar, okay? Right, you won't. That'll be fine once you're up from that one. Try not to think directly about bending your knees. Okay. Hips back first.
Close the fridge door.
Close the fridge door.
You're like,
so hips back first. Think about hips back, all about the hip shift. Yeah. So don't think about directly bending the knee. Just the knee bend comes as a byproduct of you trying to get your hips back further, okay? Right, let's go. So don't let the bar get away from you. Good. That's better. Keep pushing it, let's go. And again. Brace hard, breath in, core tight, and drive. Oh, easy, and again. Good, and one more. Brace hard, core, hips back, and pull. There you go, all the way through. Yeah, that's the one. Good, well done. Right, so this is maybe controversial, but I would almost prefer to see someone's form break down just that little bit towards their last rep or two, and then be brave and not be afraid to see it fall apart just ever so slightly, rather than being so perfect with their form that they actually don't take their sets to failure. The main thing is you train with intensity. You obviously want to make sure you're safe, that the lift is still efficient, but if they're not necessarily perfect reps towards the last rep or two, then just send it. Don't stress too much about it. Don't be afraid to take it there. Okay, so maintenance for an RDL is really thinking about your hip shift. The more hip shift you get, the better. So you want to make sure you keep that vertical shin position the whole time. Your knee stays stacked over your ankle, and you're just focusing on trying to push your hips back as far as you can. Now, you're not really going to think about actively bending your knees, but the knee bend that you get is going to come as a byproduct of you just trying to get your hips back as far as possible. A really good cue is think about sinking your core into the top of your thighs as you come down. Pause at the bottom and then drive back up. So with any Bulgarian split squat, I always like to have a slight front foot elevation. This is just put you in a better position just to achieve a bit more depth, basically. So always set up with a slight elevation if you can, whether that is with a Reebok step or with like a bumper plate, like any will do, but it will just give you just that little bit more range of motion. With the glute-focused Bulgarian as well, so with these, you'll just want the one dumbbell in the hand opposing the foot on the floor. So if I have my left foot on the floor, I'm going to have the dumbbell in my right hand. Then essentially your glutes have to work just that a little bit harder to be able to stabilize like your pelvis that way as well. So you're just going to get a little bit more out of the glute rather than using two dumbbells, for example. Okay, so for a glute-focused Bulgarian, we're going to have one dumbbell in the opposing hand to the foot on the floor. If the left foot is on the floor, the dumbbell is going to be in the right hand. The reason why we have that is just because the glute has to work a little bit harder to stabilize the pelvis if we just have the dumbbell in that hand versus a dumbbell in each hand. Now, with these, you want to make sure that you're trying to send the hips back and down. You're going to keep your shin vertical, so again, your knee is going to be stacked over your ankle the entire time. You're going to make sure that the focus stays on that front foot. Imagine as if you're going to lean your torso over your working leg as you sit the hips back. Pause at the bottom and then drive back up. Okay guys, so that is our little client train day complete. We've had a blast. Yeah. The girls are a little bit dead.
Train, that's why.
My legs are dead. Well, I'm fresh as Daisy, but we've had a wicked session. We've gone through a few touch points when it comes to training, like main tips and principles, and I've just put them through their paces. In-person check-ins as well done. Girls obviously looking great. And yeah, so if you enjoyed the video, if you managed to get a few tips, if there's anything else that you would like to see from me at all, please just drop a comment below, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Channel below.
Oh yeah, go on.
Go for it.